60 Minutes correspondent Scott Pelley, he has spent a lifetime telling other people's stories. And now Scott has a story of his own. It's all in a new book. It's called The Truth Worth Telling, a reporter's search for meaning in the stories of our time. Scott joins us live from New York now. Hey, Scott, good afternoon.
Hey, Sandra, great to be with you.
So just looking at the title of this book, first of all, congratulations that you put it all down in a book. Looking at the title, The Truth Worth Telling, what does that mean?
Well, you know, in this day and age, Sandra, I think there are times when the truth can seem to be a lie and lies can seem to be the truth. And one of the things I wanted to remind people of in this book is that truth is a real thing. It's verifiable. And one of the things that we do in journalism as a public service is try to find that truth and spread the truth. The book is about people that I've met all around the world who discovered the meaning of their lives in the historic moments of our times and the values that those people have shown us. And that's the bedrock truth that I'm trying to get to in this book.
When you talk about those moments, we remember 9/11, Sandy Hook, Afghanistan. You were there, and you talk about putting these things in perspective because you're not just a journalist, you're a person, and we experience these things that we go through.
Well, the chapters of the book are named after virtues, and the first chapter is called Gallantry, and it's about the firefighters that I saw at the World Trade Center on 9/11. I was standing there when the buildings came down, and I watched those men run into those buildings and realized that I had just seen all of them killed. It's the largest loss of life of any emergency service in history. And if this book does nothing else, I hope I've paid tribute to each and every one of them who sacrificed themselves that day just against the chance that they might be able to help someone else.
Important stories. Scott, is this something that you sat down and wrote at one time, or did you keep notes throughout your career?
You know, believe it or not, Sandra, I've got all my old notebooks really going back about 35 years. I know my wife used to say, what are you going to do with all this stuff? Well, I finally cracked them open and used those notebooks to inform the writing. I've been writing this book for a couple of years now, so it's really gratifying to see it coming out on Tuesday. And it's really the sum total of everything I've learned in journalism.
Is there one particular message or theme that kind of stuck with you throughout the book?
You know, we say in the introduction to the book, Sandra, don't ask the meaning of life. Life is asking, what's the meaning of you? And that's what each of these chapters is about. People who discovered the meaning of their lives. And the chapters are entitled things like gallantry, selflessness, honor, duty, authenticity, even audacity, and the amazing characters that I have met who have shown us those values.
And you talk about your notebooks over that extensive career. I imagine it brought back a lot of emotions for you as well.
You know, that first chapter about gallantry, about 9/11, I cried a lot while I was writing that. It helped me deal with my feelings from that day. There were times that I just had to stop because I couldn't see my laptop anymore because my eyes were full of tears. And that was definitely the hardest chapter to write, and it was definitely the hardest chapter to read in the audio book. Very, very difficult because I have a lot of material that I did research on for years about telephone calls to 911 operators and recordings of firefighter radio calls, and a lot of that is incredibly dramatic.
Scott, I'm a big reader. I can't wait to open this book. Thank you so much, and good luck with the book tour. That book
Thank you so much, Sandra. Great to be with you in LA.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. We appreciate it.